A stick of butter on the counter, condensation beating on the wrapper. The oldest debate in every kitchen. We ranked 8 common butter brands by how well they actually survive without a fridge, tracking texture, smell, and shape over several days. Only 3 held up, and the difference comes down to details on the label that almost nobody reads. Counting down from the weakest, here's number 8. 8th place goes to Great Value, the classic Walmart store brand. This butter sits right at the legal minimum for American butter, about 80% fat, and as much as 16% water. That extra water is the weak link when it comes to leaving butter out. More water means a softer stick that loses its shape fast, and it opens the door to bacteria and mold far sooner than higher fat butters. The salt content is modest, just enough to qualify as salted, but not enough to offer much extra protection. Great Value isn't pretending to be anything fancy. It's engineered to meet the USDA definition and nothing more. That makes it a true fridge-first butter. On the counter, it starts to look shiny, then soft, and by day 4, it's already showing signs of spoilage. For anyone who wants spreadable butter that lasts, this is the baseline every stronger brand needs to beat. Number 7 goes to Land O'Lakes, unsalted, a staple in American kitchens, but a clear example of why salt matters for butter left out on the counter. Without any added salt, this stick loses one of butter's oldest natural defenses. Salt isn't just about taste. It pulls moisture out and slows down the growth of bacteria, giving salted butter a fighting chance at room temperature. Land O'Lakes. Unsalted skips that protection entirely, leaving about 21% water in the mix and nothing to keep microbes in check. Even the packaging spells it out. Keep refrigerated. That's not a suggestion. It's a warning. The butter softens fast, turns glossy, and can pick up off smells within days. In this test, brand recognition and decades of trust can't override basic food chemistry. For kitchen use, Land O'Lakes. Unsalted is perfect for baking, but on the counter, it's simply not built to last. Number 6 is Challenge Butter, a familiar name for anyone shopping West Coast dairy aisles. The salted version steps up in shelf life compared to unsalted sticks, thanks to about 0.4% salt by weight, enough to slow down some bacteria and keep the butter tasting fresher a little longer at room temperature. But Challenge is still a sweet cream butter, not a cultured one, so it doesn't get that extra boost of natural acidity that helps fend off spoilage. With a fat content right at the 80% legal minimum and water making up the rest, Challenge Butter relies almost entirely on cold storage for long-term stability. On the counter, it softens and starts to lose its shape after just a few days, holding together a bit better than unsalted brands, but still falling short of true countertop resilience. The takeaway here is simple. Salt helps, but without higher fat or culturing, Challenge Butter is built for the fridge, not the butter dish. Number 5 goes to Organic Valley, a brand that often carries an aura of purity and premium quality. But when it comes to surviving on the counter, The organic label doesn't tell the full story. Organic Valley is certified for how its ingredients are sourced and how the cows are raised, not for how the butter holds up without refrigeration. The stick still clocks in at the standard 80% fat and about 0.3% salt, which means it has just as much water as the basic supermarket brands. There's no cultured cream or extra salt to boost its defenses, so the butter softens quickly and starts to lose its shape after a few days at room temperature. The clean sourcing is real, but the shelf stability is ordinary. For anyone expecting organic to mean longer lasting, this is a reminder. Countertop performance depends on the formula, not the farming philosophy. Number 4 is Tillamook, and this is where the butter lineup starts to shift. Tillamook's extra creamy salted stick packs about 81% butter fat, just above the American minimum. That small bump in fat means there's less water to cause early spoilage or make the stick collapse on a warm counter. The salt content, around 0.4%, gives it another line of defense, helping slow down bacteria and keeping the butter tasting fresh, a bit longer than the typical supermarket brands. But while it's richer and holds its shape better, Tillamook is still made from standard sweet cream, not cultured cream. Without the tangy acidity that comes from culturing, it doesn't get the full protection that pushes European-style butters into a class of their own. In a real kitchen, Tillamook bridges the gap between everyday butter and the premium top tier. It lasts longer on the counter than most, but after about a week it starts to soften and lose its edge, stopping just short of the resilience found in the final 3. Coming to the top 3, President marks a clear shift in how butter is built for life outside the fridge. Churned in the French style, President carries a butterfat content of at least 82%, matching the European standard and immediately lowering the amount of water left in each stick. Less water means fewer opportunities for bacteria to get started, and that's just the beginning. This butter is cultured before churning, which introduces lactic acid and drops the pH, making the environment even less friendly for microbes. The result is a stick that resists softening, stays smooth, and keeps its flavor longer on the counter. This approach isn't new. It's how butter was made and stored for centuries, before refrigeration ever entered the kitchen. In this test, Precedent is the first brand that feels designed for the butter dish, not just the fridge. It's the opening act of the true survivor tier, where science and tradition finally stack the odds in favor of the butter, not against it. In second place, Kerrygold brings together the best of European butter tradition and modern kitchen practicality. With butter fat levels consistently reported between 82 and 83%, this Irish import starts with a richer, denser base than any standard American stick. The high fat content means there's less water, which is the key to slowing down spoilage and keeping the stick firm even after days on the counter. Kerrygold doesn't stop there. The added salt acts as a second line of defense, pulling moisture out of the tiny water droplets inside and making it tougher for bacteria to get a foothold. This double barrier is exactly why Kerrygold has become the go-to choice for butter bells and countertop storage. In fact, the butter bell itself was designed around butters just like this. And for generations, Irish and French kitchens have relied on these high-fat, salted sticks to stay spreadable and safe without refrigeration. Kerrygold feels like the obvious answer for anyone looking to skip the fridge, combining old-world methods with a flavor and texture that hold up remarkably well. It sets the standard for what butter can be outside the fridge, until one more brand manages to push the science even further. And finally, in first place, Vermont Creamery. Cultured butter stands alone as the ultimate survivor in the room temperature test. This butter doesn't just rely on one trick. It brings together every element that science and tradition say matters. The fat content hits 82%, matching the European benchmark and squeezing out enough water to leave bacteria with almost nothing to work with. Added sea salt acts as a second shield, pulling even more moisture out of reach and creating an environment where most spoilage microbes can't thrive. But the real secret is culturing. Before churning, the cream is fermented with live lactic bacteria, dropping the pH and adding a gentle tang. That acidity is a natural preservative, working alongside the salt and high fat to create a triple barrier against spoilage. The result is a butter that holds its shape, keeps its flavor, and stays smooth and spreadable for nearly 2 weeks on the counter, outlasting every other brand in the test. Vermont Creamery's formula isn't just a nod to European tradition, it's a revival of the preservation logic that kept butter safe for centuries before refrigeration. This test proves that the answer isn't in the price tag or the brand reputation. It's right there on the label in the fat percentage, the salt, and the word cultured. Across all 8 brands, one pattern stands out. Butter's survival on the counter isn't about price or prestige. It's pure food science. Fat content, salt, and culturing has set the winners apart. The real answer to shelf-stable butter isn't hype. It's hidden in the label. Choose wisely.